Welcome to Books in the Biz, the show where real-world business meets real-world results. Hosted by business strategist Dan Paulson and veteran CFO Richard Beltry, this podcast breaks down the stories, trends, and financial insights shaping today's companies. Dan brings decades of experience helping leaders simplify operations, build strong cultures, and scale with confidence. Rich adds his deep financial expertise from guiding organizations across healthcare, construction, logistics, and professional services. Together, they dig into what's really happening behind the numbers and what it means for owners, executives, and anyone trying to grow a stronger, smarter business. This is practical conversation, real talk, and tools you can use right now. Welcome to Books in the Biz.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Books in the Biz. Here for another exciting episode. Rich, welcome back. How's your week going?
Going well.
Taxes haven't got crazy yet?
No, not quite. They're.
Still early enough?
I think my brokerage friends are holding back their documents, and because they're holding them back, clients don't have them. They're not giving me anything. It's going to come like a flood, like the 15th of February.
That sounds about right. It seems like, all the invested stuff takes forever. But we're not here to talk about the investment stuff taking forever. We're maybe more talking about owners taking forever and where they get stuck. Because I think both of you and I have dealt with some clients, some prospects, and other people that just can't seem to get out of their own way. And thought it'd be a good conversation for us to maybe talk about what we've seen and what you need to do to kind of break through your trap, as you will. Yeah. Subtle pitch for the new book coming out. How's that?
Sounds good.
So, you from a financial side, when do you see owners getting stuck where they can't seem to move forward or make a decision?
I think one spot is when they want to do something, but it requires them to take out a loan. So signing the bottom line on the application, not on the loan, but on the application can actually be a stumbling block, a stutterer. We'll call it whatever we want to call it. But it's a spot where you get to the point of, oh, this is real now.
Yep.
I'm about to do this. What do I think? And then it gets rethought several times.
Mm-hmm.
Expansions, mergers and acquisitions, there's a perfect opportunity. There will be some reason that somebody wants to hold back and say, let's think about this for a second. Do I really want to do this? It just comes down to, that risk factor that drops into everybody's head at some point. And usually they're holding a pen. It's like, it's down to that. Like, I'm about to call, what should I do here? Should I actually sign this? So, I think those are probably the two immediate examples that come to me that, when you're getting to that, unless it's something that has been already mulled over for months and months and months, the execution of that signature is the last thing. It just kind of holds back.
Yeah, I would say from my end, very much the same thing. I think if there's one prevailing theme under all this is, as a business owner, you tend to be risky already. And then there's that certain threshold you cross where now when certain risks become real, especially when there's maybe a significant financial risk, that people tend to hold back or slow down.
Yep.
And I'd say, from my perspective on the operations side, I can think of a couple clients where, they come to me with this grand idea. We're going to implement, fill in the blank, buy a new piece of equipment, do an acquisition, market to a new vertical, whatever it might be. And actually I've been working with some clients in the past who They come to me and they're all gung ho to go do something, and they would send me out on a charge when I'm kind of filling in that fractional role to implement some of this stuff, and I get started on it. And there's one client I can think of. It was notorious. I would get about 2 to 3 weeks in. I'm just starting to make some ground on what I'm doing and actually starting to see some early results. And he comes in and he'll wave his hand and go, no, stop. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do this instead. And then there's this sudden pitch over to a different direction. And same process, go 2 to 3 weeks, starting to make momentum on that, and then everything stops again. And to me, again, it is kind of that fear of, maybe this could be real and maybe something could happen here. And are we really prepared for that? So that, again, kind of, it's that fear that jumps into people's heads.
Yeah.
That's, why am I doing this? And is this going to work? And what happens if it doesn't work? And I'm spending all this money and, I don't want to be left with just a bunch of debt. On a personal note, my mother, hopefully she's not listening to this podcast, extremely risk averse at times, very analytical. And sometimes I even catch her, in those situations, nothing to do with business wise, but where she will just be ultra cautious about something when it's like, and with her, it's not even really risking anything per se. It might be a couple grand. We're not talking about, as you point out, you're signing on the dotted line where maybe it's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or potentially in some cases even millions of dollars, which is, makes you swallow hard, but it's just little things. And I think, again, it's that whole mindset, that fear of loss that we get into, that we've worked so hard to get to this point. Taking that next leap is going to be that much more difficult. From a financial perspective, what have you done or what have you seen that would kind of help ease those nerves or maybe help push people past that decision point? Because I agree with you, a lot of it is financial related. I think of the prospects that I talk to, and when I show them the proposal and show them the, here's the number you're going to have to shell out for that investment. I've had some people swallow hard there too. Mm-hmm. So what's your experience on that?
I'm going to throw out a theory that you can tell me if you agree with or not, but I think that a single owner tends to have this more than if the company has multiple owners, or if the company has a single owner but has a pretty strong advisory board, And I'm not talking about something massive, one owner, but there's 57 people on the advisory board. No, that's not. I'm talking about where you have a couple of key people that are, overseeing and saying this is going to work. Then I think you wind up with a little bit less of that pressure because there's reassurance.
Mm-hmm.
When we had the shoe company and I swore they were going to have a board meeting and essentially close the company down. And then a few years later, we sold it for $80 million. I think the reason that was taken care of was that the owner didn't really have as much of a say as the private equity firm did. And the private equity firm that was involved was very keen on this is the plan. And so there were a number of people that kept saying, this is the plan, and we're following the plan. And we did exactly that. We followed the plan, and that's why we were able to sell it a couple of years later. When I first met them, I'm like, I'm not going to be here very long. So I think when you have that support structure, you tend to get away from the nervousness and and getting into your own head, right? Once you're into your own head, it's very difficult. Who's gonna get those thoughts out?
Right.
So I think to a certain extent, I'm actually advocating for something I've never advocated for before, but have an advisory board, have somebody there that's going to actually support you so that, when you have these second thoughts, there's someone there to say, no, this is why we did this, because this is going to work this way. So I guess that's where I'm leaning towards. Like, I would just say, have that support structure.
I think that is a great idea because I think when I look at most companies, that's where they really struggle, especially the small to medium sized businesses, is they really don't have anyone to talk to. And for the most part, a publicly traded company will have a board of directors. Some privately held companies
Hmm.
build their own board of directors, but most do not.
Yep.
So you have that owner that's gotten to whatever level this level is, and they really don't have a sounding board to
Hmm.
help guide them through critical decisions, which to me is a big problem.
Yep.
And as you point out, you don't need a ton of people on it. You need maybe two or three, you know, if nothing else, enough to break a tie. And I would say the other thing you need to do is you need to surround yourself with people who are going to give you honest feedback and not be yes men or yes women. Because I've seen that all too many times where you surround yourself with people that just make you feel good, but they're not giving you sound advice
Yep.
and thus leading you down maybe a treacherous path on a very expensive decision. Because if they're just going to go along and agree with it, not push back or challenge you on ideas, then what good is that advisory board?
Yeah.
But that to me is probably the best solution when you're in a situation where you're really stuck. Who can you go to actually work through some of these issues?
Yeah, I think the small businesses really need to consider, if you're especially if you're raising money, you wind up with a board that's going to be around the people that raise the money for you. So they love
Right.
your idea. Are they contributing? Are they hands on? Or did they just love the idea? They put the money in and you gave them a board seat.
Yep.
So they have a vote, but do they have a voice? Are they actually helping you to grow? Dental organization that I went to work with had 15 people with you know stock awards, right? You're going to get paid with stock, but nobody was talking. There was
Mm,
maybe three people that were talking, and the main guy was like, I'm in charge. This is the way I'm going. But it was a horrible path, and I couldn't stay because it just said this is not going to end well. Um, so you need people with a voice that you can talk to. It really has to be, if it's your stock board, like if it's your ownership board, then they need to be hands on. They need to be involved, and they need to be vocal. That way you can get the advice that you want out of them. There's a reason they're there.
yep. Yeah. I think you're right. There needs to be, some vested interest in it and going beyond, either getting paid to be there because, a lot of these board seats, you do get some sort of financial,
Hmm.
I don't want to, kickback isn't the right word, but compensation, I guess.
Yeah.
Compensation is the words I'm looking for. And I see no problem with that. I think if you're tapping into somebody's expertise, then it's worth making that investment as long as the investment is good.
Yep.
I look at from my perspective, if you're going to bring in board members, the type of people you look for are, again, those people that are going to challenge or push back, but also might have some key experience in areas that maybe you're not as strong in business wise,
Hmm.
either on systems or maybe on different industries or verticals you're trying to penetrate, maybe on marketing and sales, because I think most business owners kind of struggle in those areas unless they've got their niche worked out pretty clearly. But once you get to that plateau where now you got to change up your sales and marketing, or maybe there's new technology, there's lots of talk about AI right now, and of course, everything from SEO and your traditional electronic media to even going back to print in some other ways. There's different approaches that you can take, and if you have somebody who maybe has gone down that path and can tell you their experience, it can be quite helpful. What do you
Yep.
see, from a financial perspective? What would you recommend somebody have on their team that works with the numbers?
You need at least one person who's not a yes man. Um, I think that my plug for myself, the comments that come out of people who have worked with me realize that I'm not going to just say, yeah, go ahead, that's great, go ahead, that's great. If I
Hmm.
don't if I think there's a risk, I'm going to tell you where the risk is. If
Yep.
I'm, and if I see it or if I see a problem, I'm going to let you know there's a problem. Um, Usually I'm going to try to find a solution right away, but, present it with, look, there's a problem, but we can do this and that'll fix it. But you need somebody who's not just going to say yes and hope that everything works out because they need a big payday at the end. You want somebody who's actually going to say, we can get there because you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And you need to be the guy that's going to be real with you, that when you ask the question, he's going to give you a real answer so you can make a decision. I get lost a little bit when I see people just like, yeah. There's no value in that. So I'm very big on value this year.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have somebody who's going to give you honest feedback, because all too many times you bring in people that stroke your ego. Makes you feel good,
Yeah.
but again, might lead you down the wrong path. And that's where, something like this is critical. So if you are a business owner and you're kind of getting in that stuck phase, maybe you need to reach out to people who can help you, guide you through that, because that investment's going to be worth it over time. That's where you can scale your business when you're getting stuck. Rich, you provide a lot of great financial advice. How's the best way to get a hold of you?
Send me an email, rich@xcxo.net.
And you can do pretty much the same for me. I'm Dan at xcxo.net. Rich, while this was a fairly short conversation, I think this was probably one of the more powerful ones for a lot of business owners who never thought, yeah, maybe I can surround myself with a group of people who can help me work through some of these challenges. And it's always good to have some advisors on hand. So great convo. Talk to you next week, and hopefully there's more exciting stuff we can share.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Books and the Biz. If today's conversation sparked new ideas for your company, the team at XCXO can help you turn those ideas into action. XCXO brings together seasoned executives, fractional CEOs, COOs, CFOs, and CXOs who step into your business with the experience, strategy, and leadership to drive real results. Whether you're trying to scale, strengthen operations, improve profitability, or prepare for transition, our experts help you move faster and lead with confidence. To learn more or start a conversation, visit xcxo.net. That's xcxo.net, your shortcut to stronger leadership and a better run business. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time on Books and the Biz.